What kind of manager steals tips from their own staff? That question hit Wilder Morris like a hammer the moment he stepped into the fifth store of his late father's coffee shop chain. He hadn't come here because of any tip jar rumor, he didn't even know about that. What brought him here was a pattern. This location had the highest turnover, the worst customer ratings, and for months, his district manager kept brushing it off as a tough neighborhood. Wilder had inherited the chain 3 years ago. He'd grown it quietly, modernized the systems, but lately he'd felt something slipping. He trusted his district managers too much and stayed too far from the stores themselves. That changed 2 weeks ago after a surprise visit to the third location showed him a barista crying in the storage room, overwhelmed and ignored. That was the wake-up call. He'd already visited 4 of the 5 stores under disguise. Now came the last one. Wilder adjusted the gray hoodie, fake beard, and wire frame glasses in his car mirror. The disguise had worked so far nobody at the stores had ever met him. His dad used to run everything in person. Wilder had stayed behind the scenes. It was a corporate chain now. Most of the staff didn't even know what he looked like. He entered the store just before the morning rush. The place smelled like burnt espresso and bleach. A tired-looking girl behind the register didn't look up when he walked in. "You here for the trainee shift?" she asked without warmth. "Yeah." "I'm Wyatt. First day." She pointed to the back without another word. He passed through the swinging doors and found the manager a tall, lean man with slicked back hair and a Bluetooth in his ear leaning on the prep counter, scrolling through his phone. "You Wyatt?" the man asked, not looking up. "Yeah. I'm Leon. I run this place. Don't get in my way and you'll be fine." Leon tossed an apron at him and went back to his phone. Wilder spent the next few hours shadowing the staff washing dishes, wiping counters. He kept his head down and listened. The place was chaos under the surface. Orders got messed up constantly because half the team was new. Wilder overheard one guy say it was his 3rd week and he still hadn't been trained. "Leon says to figure it out as you go," the guy mumbled while cleaning the blender. The only one holding things together was the cashier, Julia Owens. She was probably in her early 20s, sharp and calm under pressure. She remembered every customer's name, smoothed over every mistake, and even helped with back-of-house prep when the line was slow. Around noon, Wilder finally caught Leon doing something odd. There was a short lull in customers. Julia was in the back grabbing cups. Leon walked up to the tip jar, looked around, and casually slipped a handful of bills into his pocket. Wilder froze. He wasn't ready to confront him. Not yet. He needed to be sure. Maybe Leon was just moving the money, but then Julia came back. She paused by the counter. Her eyes dropped to the jar, and then to Leon. Wilder caught the moment. "Hey," Julia said softly, too quiet for customers to hear. "Did you just take from the tip jar?" Leon laughed like she'd told a joke. "What? You just took something from it," she said again, quiet but steady. "That's our money." Leon's smile vanished. "Watch yourself, Julia." "I am," she said. "That's why I'm asking." Leon stepped closer, towering over her. "You accusing me of stealing?" "I'm just saying we all saw it," she replied. Her voice wavered just slightly. "You can put it back and that'll be the end of it." Wilder's chest tightened. He hadn't expected her to speak up. Not like that, not so calm. She had guts. Leon didn't respond. He just stared at her, then turned and walked into the office. Julia turned to Wilder, their eyes meeting for the first time all day. "Don't say anything," she whispered. "He'll make your life hell." Wilder nodded, but inside he wasn't just nodding, he was done watching. By the time the shift ended, Wilder had seen enough to understand how this store had unraveled. It wasn't just the tip jar. That was only the most visible crack. The deeper rot was quieter. Understaffed shifts, no real training, a manager who barely lifted a finger and radiated intimidation in every room he entered. And yet, somehow, Julia managed to keep the place from collapsing altogether. As the staff started cleaning up for the mid-afternoon lull, Leon was still holed up in the office. No one said a word about what had happened. Wilder stayed on the floor, wiping down tables, watching everything. Julia barely looked at him again, but once, as she was rinsing a pitcher, she said just loud enough for him to hear, "If you're sticking around, don't count on backup." He didn't answer. He just kept wiping. The next morning, Wilder arrived 15 minutes early. The store was locked. He could see Julia inside, prepping alone. He knocked gently, and she let him in without a word. "You're early," she said, not looking at him. "Figured I should learn the opening stuff." She handed him a rag and pointed toward the espresso machine. "Sanitize everything. Start with the portafilters." They worked in silence for a while. Then, as she was restocking the cold case, she asked, "What you think of yesterday?" He dried his hands before answering. "Seems like people are doing their best." She pulled her hair into a bun and gave a short laugh. "That's generous." Wilder leaned against the counter. "You've been here a while." "Too long," she said. 3 years. He raised an eyebrow. "Why stay?" She looked at the floor for a beat, then shrugged. "I've got bills, and I kept thinking it'd get better." "You ever report anything?" "To corporate or someone higher up?" Her eyes met his. "You think I haven't tried? You know who reviews complaints? Leon. If you go around him, you're disruptive. That's what they call it. Disruptive behavior." Wilder nodded slowly. He'd seen that term in some write-ups during a recent audit. Vague language, no details. The door chimed. First customer, they moved into place. Julia took the register. Wilder handled drinks. By 9 o'clock, the line was wrapped past the door. One of the newer hires, a teenager named Evan, knocked over a tray of hot lids and froze in panic. Julia swooped in, picked them up, tossed them, and whispered, "It's fine. You're fine. Grab new ones." Leon arrived sometime after 10. He walked straight to the back, didn't greet anyone. Minutes later, he returned to the front, sipping from a drink he hadn't paid for. He leaned on the counter beside Julia. "You scheduled Evan again?" he asked. "No," she said. "You did." Leon frowned like she'd spoken out of turn. "I don't remember doing that." "You approved the schedule," she said. "I sent it last Thursday." "Well, fix it," he said. "He's too slow. He's new." Leon didn't reply. He turned to Wilder. "You, Wyatt, right?" Wilder nodded. "Clean the bathrooms, now." Wilder untied his apron and headed toward the back. The hallway smelled like mildew. The janitor's closet was missing half the supplies, no gloves. No proper cleaner. He found a half-empty spray bottle labeled multi and a roll of paper towels stuffed behind a mop bucket. He cleaned the bathrooms as best he could. When he returned, Julia was alone again. Leon had vanished. "He always this hands-off?" Wilder asked. Julia didn't answer immediately. "You ever seen him do a single closing shift?" she asked instead. "Because I haven't. He shows up whenever he feels like it, signs off on our hours, and disappears. You know if he's skimming from other stuff, not just tips." She looked at him carefully. "You ask a lot of questions for a guy on his second day." He hesitated, then said, "I worked at a place where the manager got caught pocketing cash. It tanked the store, just wondering." Her expression softened slightly. "Wouldn't surprise me," she said. "Inventory's always off." "Once I saw him take 2 bags of beans and walk out with them." Wilder filed that away. Product theft. A second offense. Combined with the tip jar incident and the intimidation, it was more than enough. Later that afternoon, a woman came in pushing a stroller, holding the hand of a young girl. She looked tired, frazzled. Julia greeted her by name. "Hey, Danny, usual?" The woman nodded. "And a chocolate milk, please." Wilder watched as Julia pulled a small carton from the fridge, leaned over the counter, and handed it to the girl. "No charge," she said softly. Danny smiled gratefully. "You're a lifesaver." Wilder leaned toward Julia as they moved to the machines. "You know her. She used to work here," Julia said. "Single mom. Leon cut her hours after her kid got sick. She finally quit." "She still comes in," Julia nodded. "I told her drinks are on me if she ever needs one." Wilder said nothing, but his jaw tightened. By 5, the store was winding down. Leon hadn't returned since morning. A delivery truck arrived with a shipment of milk and syrups. Julia checked the invoice, signed it, then turned to Wilder. "Can you help me unload this into the fridge?" As they worked, she said quietly. "He's been padding invoices too." I compared last week's with what we actually got. We paid for 6 cases of oat milk, only got 4. Wilder looked at her. You have copies? She pulled her phone from her pocket, swiped through photos, and showed him side-by-side shots. He stared at them, clear as daylight. The vendor's printed invoice and the shelf inventory right after. 2 cases missing. That's theft, he said. No one's listening, she replied. I've tried. Wilder stared at the fridge door. He'd heard enough. He walked to the office, knocked once. No answer. He opened it. Leon was inside, feet on the desk, watching a video on his phone. You knock for a reason, Leon said, not looking up. I've got a question, Wilder said. Leon glanced at him. What? You've been running this store a while, 3 years. Why? You do inventory personally, Leon narrowed his eyes. You trying to accuse me of something? Just asking, I've seen some discrepancies. Leon stood up slowly. You're a trainee. You don't get to ask questions. Wilder stepped fully into the room. I'm not a trainee, he said. I'm the owner. Leon stared, mouth opened slightly. He blinked once, then again. What? My name's Wilder Morris. I own this chain. Leon's mouth moved, but no sound came out. I've been to 4 of the 5 stores this week, Wilder continued. Yours is the only one where I've seen theft, intimidation, and outright neglect, Leon scoffed. You can't prove anything? I can, Wilder said, and I will, but let's make this simple. You're done here. Effective immediately. Leon's face twisted. You think you can just walk in here? I'm not thinking. I know. You've stolen from your staff. You've padded invoices. And you've created a hostile work environment. You'll receive a formal letter terminating your employment. Security footage from the tip jar incident has already been pulled. Leon's posture changed. The arrogance drained out of him. He looked around the office like it might protect him. You can't do this without corporate. I am corporate. Wilder turned, left the office, and walked back to the floor. Julia was wiping down the counter. He stopped in front of her. I'm not Wyatt, he said. She looked up. I figured. My name's Wilder Morris. I own the company. She stared at him, completely still. He continued. Leon's gone, effective now. She blinked. Are you serious? You were right, he said. About everything. I should have come sooner. He paused, then added, I'm not going to pretend I can fix all this overnight. But I'm going to start today. She let out a long breath, then nodded once. I hope you mean that, she said. I do, he replied, and I'm going to need your help. The next morning, Wilder arrived early again, this time as himself, no hoodie, no disguise. Just a button-down shirt, jeans, and the quiet weight of responsibility. He stood outside the closed store, keys in hand, waiting for Julia to arrive. When she did, she paused mid-step, clearly surprised. You're really here, she said. I said I would be. She unlocked the door and held it open. Inside, the cafe was silent, humming with the low buzz of refrigeration units and early morning air. The fluorescent lights flickered to life overhead. Wilder pulled out a clipboard from his bag. We've got a lot to address. First shift's in at 7, right? Julia nodded. Evan and Kendra. Good, he said. We'll meet with them before we open. I want to hear directly what's been happening from their side. Then we'll go from there. He moved to the back and started taking photos of the old supply logs, the ones Leon had signed off on. As he worked, Julia leaned against the prep sink, arms folded. You really going through all of it? I have to, he said. Not just for this store. I need to know how deep the rot goes. She didn't respond, but her expression softened slightly. By 7:15, Evan and Kendra had arrived. They looked unsure when they saw Wilder standing near the counter without an apron. Kendra, in particular, glanced at Julia as if asking silently what was going on. Julia stepped forward. This is Wilder Morris, she said. He owns the company. Neither teenager reacted at first. You're the guy, Kendra finally asked. Wilder gave a short nod. I went undercover this week. I saw what's been happening here. I'm not here to lecture anyone. I want to listen and I want to fix what's broken. Evan shifted uncomfortably. Are we in trouble? Not at all, Wilder said. But I need the truth, all of it. Kendra looked down, then said, We never got trained, not really. Leon just told us to watch the others. And if we messed up, Evan added, he'd call us out in front of customers. One time he made me remake a drink 6 times just to prove a point. Wilder wrote it down. Did he ever touch you, threaten you physically? No, Kendra said, but he didn't have to. The way he talked was enough. Wilder closed the clipboard. I'm bringing in a senior trainer from another store to help get everyone properly onboarded, he said. Starting tomorrow, you'll be paid for the training hours, and we're reworking the schedule to make sure no one's thrown on shift without support again. They both nodded, unsure but relieved. Also, he added, Julia's stepping in as interim floor lead, effective now. Julia froze. What? You've been holding this place together. You've earned the authority to make decisions. She opened her mouth, closed it again. Then finally said, all right. As the morning rush began, Wilder stayed off the floor. He watched from the corner, taking notes. Customers filtered in steadily, orders called out, drinks made with more care than yesterday. Julia moved with quiet efficiency, redirecting Evan gently when he hesitated, stepping in when a line started to form. Around 10, the door opened and a sharply dressed man in his late 40s walked in, holding a leather briefcase. Wilder stepped out to meet him. Mark, he said, extending a hand. Mark shook it firmly. Got your message last night. I brought the preliminary reports. Mark was the company's internal auditor, rarely seen in stores. His work happened in spreadsheets and behind logins. But after Wilder's calls last night, he'd changed his plans to get here first thing. They stepped into the back office, and Mark opened his laptop. Leon's been submitting falsified inventory for at least 3 months, he said, pulling up a screen. You were right about the oat milk. And it's not just that. He inflated waste numbers, claiming hundreds in lost product that was never reported at the vendor level. Wilder frowned. Did he pocket the difference? Almost certainly. We'll need to investigate his bank activity, but given the pattern, it's clean theft. Wilder nodded. What about payroll? Mark pulled another tab. He adjusted hours downward on 4 employees last month. One of them was Julia. Wilder's jaw clenched. Send everything to HR and legal, he said. File it formally. I want nothing swept under the rug. Mark nodded and packed up. After he left, Wilder walked back out. He found Julia near the back, checking the fridge stock. I just got confirmation, he said. Leon was doctoring payroll too. You were one of the people shorted. Her hand tightened around the clipboard. Figures. You'll be reimbursed in full, retroactive to the start of the discrepancies. She nodded once. Thank you, he hesitated. You ever think about staying in a leadership role longer term? She looked at him, wary. You offering? I'm asking, he said. Because I don't want someone temporary running this place. I want someone who knows the bones of it. Julia leaned against the wall. I'd need to see changes. Real ones, not just in this store. I'm working on that, he said, but I need you here while I do. She studied him for a second, then said, then I'm in, but only if I have the authority to make decisions. You will, he replied, effective immediately. They returned to the floor. The energy had shifted. Not completely, tension still hovered. Fatigue still lingered in people's eyes, but something had started to move. Just before noon, a woman entered wearing a courier uniform and carrying a clipboard. She handed it to Julia, who skimmed it and blinked. This invoice is wrong, she said. We didn't order 6 cases of vanilla syrup. The courier checked the sheet. That's what's listed. Wilder stepped forward. Hold the delivery, we're sending it back. The courier shrugged. Your call. After she left, Julia turned to him. That would have gone through 2 weeks ago, he nodded. Leon was inflating everything. That ends now. They spent the rest of the afternoon logging every item in the back. Julia called Evan and Kendra in to help. Wilder stayed and did the work beside them. No clipboard this time. Just sleeves rolled up and hands moving. At the end of the day, Evan sat on the counter, exhausted but smiling faintly. This place feels different already, he said. Julia glanced at Wilder. Let's hope it stays that way, she said. Wilder looked around the store, the scuffed floors, the humming machines, the tired but willing crew, and knew there was still a long way to go. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like the direction was right. The following week unfolded with the weight of transition pressing on every shift. With Leon officially terminated and Julia now leading the floor, the store had started to settle into a new rhythm, uneven, but moving forward. Wilder didn't return to his office uptown. He stayed in the city, rotating between the remaining stores in person, but always circling back here. He didn't announce returns. He just showed up quietly, no clipboard, no formalities. Staff got used to seeing him carry milk crates or sweep the back hallway without saying much. But he was always watching. On Wednesday morning, Julia found him outside before sunrise, sipping from a paper cup. She unlocked the door and turned toward him. "The register drawer came up short again last night," she said. "Only by a few dollars, but it's the third time." Wilder nodded. "Same closing team, same three. I already talked to them individually. No one's sure what's happening, but it's not a good pattern." He stepped inside and held the door. "We'll rotate closing shifts until we isolate it. If it's an error, we'll catch it. If it's not, I'll handle it," she said. She didn't ask permission. He didn't need her to. She moved like someone who decided this place was hers now, and Wilder had no interest in getting in her way. Later that afternoon, he brought in 2 additional baristas from another location to cover a few stretched shifts. One of them, a seasoned worker named Priya, had a reputation for calm under pressure. The other, Marco, was younger but precise. Julia met them both with a quiet nod and brought them up to speed. By Friday, the team had started to feel more cohesive. Drink times improved. Customers stopped complaining at the register. Even the regular delivery driver started commenting on how the store looked less tense. That night, Wilder stayed late to observe the close. Kendra was on shift with Marco and a new hire named Reggie, who'd only just completed training. Julia had already left, and Wilder stayed out of view in the stockroom, reviewing cameras and timecard data with Mark over a secured laptop. At 9:15, when the last customer left, he saw something that made him pause. On camera, Reggie was at the register, counting out the drawer. Marco was sweeping. Kendra was logging the fridge temperatures. Reggie paused suddenly, looked around, then slid something from the drawer into his hoodie pocket. Wilder didn't move. He let the footage play out. 2 bills, folded, smooth, practiced. He called the store line and asked for Kendra. "Don't say anything," he said once she picked up. "Just listen. I need you to step into the back room quietly. Don't let Reggie see you." She followed the instruction without hesitation. Wilder met her by the back fridge. He took from the drawer. She nodded. "I thought I saw something." "Wasn't sure. I've got it on video." A pause. "What do we do?" "Stay here. I'll handle it." He stepped out onto the floor. Reggie looked up. "Oh hey," he said too casually. Wilder walked slowly to the register. "Drawers short again." Reggie shrugged. Maybe the morning counted wrong. Wilder held up his phone. Camera footage paused on the still frame of Reggie's hand dipping into the drawer. "I need you to take off your hoodie and empty your pockets." Reggie's face fell. "What? You heard me." Reggie hesitated, then slowly removed the hoodie. From the front pocket, he pulled out 2 folded 20s. "I was going to put them back." "No," Wilder said. "You weren't." Reggie's voice started to rise. "Look, I didn't think it was a big deal. It is. You're done here." Reggie's mouth opened again, but Wilder cut him off. "This isn't a warning. This is termination. You're fired. Immediately, hand me your keycard and don't come back." Reggie stood frozen, then tossed the keycard onto the counter and walked out without another word. Marco, still sweeping, didn't say anything, but his shoulders had stiffened. Kendra stepped out a moment later. "Handled?" she asked. Wilder nodded. "You did the right thing." She looked relieved. "Go home," he added. "Both of you, I'll finish the close." Neither argued. Wilder stayed another hour wiping down surfaces, double-checking the drawer himself. He left the cash untouched and set the camera clip aside for HR documentation. The next morning, he met Julia outside again. "Reggie's gone," he said, caught him, on video. He folded the bills like he'd done it before. She exhaled slowly. "We'll need someone to cover his shifts." "I already pulled someone from another store for the weekend." After that, we'll rework the schedule. Julia leaned against the railing. We're getting there, she said. Wilder looked out at the street, then back at her. You ever think about running more than one store? She turned toward him, surprised. I'm serious, he said. You've rebuilt this place from the inside. You understand what matters. I need people like you shaping the next phase. She didn't answer right away. I'd have to think about it, she said. Good, he replied. I want you to. That afternoon, he called a full team meeting. No aprons, no drinks. Just everyone seated in the back, chairs pulled from the floor, a clipboard on his lap. I owe you all transparency, he began. This store was mismanaged, that's on me. I let systems replace presence and people got hurt in the process. No one interrupted, no one looked away. I've made changes. But those only hold if we hold each other accountable. No more silent corners. If something feels wrong, speak it. If someone crosses a line, report it. You won't be punished for telling the truth. He paused. And if anyone treats you unfairly, whether that's a manager, a coworker, or a customer, they're gone. No warnings, no tolerance. The room was quiet, then Julia stood. Wilder means it, she said, voice steady. I've watched him back it up, but this doesn't work if we go quiet again. If something's broken, say it. People nodded, slowly at first, then more. After the meeting, people lingered. For the first time, conversation came easy. Marco offered to help Kendra with calibration. Priya asked if they could repaint the break room wall. It had flaked so much, it looked like it hadn't been touched since the store opened. Wilder approved it on the spot. The next morning, when he arrived early, the break room was already cleared out. A tarp covered the floor. A can of white paint sat on a stool, half opened. Julia stood with a brush in her hand. You said yes, she said simply. He picked up the second brush. I meant it. They painted in silence, no fanfare, no speeches, just fresh color over old damage. And for the first time in a long while, the store felt like it belonged to the people inside it. Not just on paper, but in truth.